And joining us with the latest are Congressman Rodney Davis, a Republican whose downstate 13th congressional district includes parts of Champaign and Sangamon counties, among others, and Congressman Krishnamorthi, a Democrat representing Illinois' 8th district, which includes Elgin, Schaumburg, and Addison. Gentlemen, welcome both of you back to Chicago tonight.
Thank you so much, Paris.
So we have to start with the news of the day, the widespread property damage and looting downtown in the wake of a police-involved shooting in Englewood. Congressman Krishnamoorthi, is there anything the federal government can do right now to help the situation in Chicago?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that any kind of criminality or violence is completely unacceptable. And I agree with Mayor Lightfoot and her comments in that regard this morning. As far as federal aid, I think that to the extent that federal law enforcement is willing to provide aid in coordination at the invitation of the mayor and the governor, I think that's entirely appropriate. We just don't want a situation like Portland where federal involvement would be independent of what the local authorities are doing. But this type of criminality has to stop.
Congressman Davis, there have been additional federal agents dispatched to Chicago to work in agencies like the U.S. Attorney's Office and ATF. Do you support that? Is that the proper use of federal resources?
I certainly do.
Can you expand on that? Congressman Krishnamoorthi said he doesn't want it to get to a situation like Portland. Are you confident that that won't happen in Chicago?
Well, there's a big difference between Portland and Chicago a few weeks ago, and that was Mayor Lightfoot actually asked for certain type of law enforcement assistance. Mayor Wheeler in Portland clearly had no intention of protecting the federal courthouse, protecting federal property. Therefore, federal agents came in to protect federal property. What we're seeing in Chicago last night is not destruction of federal property, it's destruction of businesses in downtown Chicago. It's devastating. As a matter of fact, at the same time, cities are asking Congress to provide a bailout for local sales tax revenue shortfalls. How in the world can we be okay with a big driver of local sales tax revenue in the Magnificent Mile being destroyed on a regular basis? Something's got to be done, and I certainly hope that the mayor and Governor Pritzker take this very seriously, and at some point, if it keeps up, may need to think about sending in the Illinois National Guard like they did before.
And I was going to follow up with that. That was something that Mayor Lightfoot said she didn't want to have happen right now. Congressman Krishnamorthi, is it appropriate to send the National Guard right now?
Well, again, that's something that Mayor Lightfoot should decide in conjunction with Governor Pritzker. But let me just point out one thing, which is that I believe that state and local aid is all the more important at this time to make sure that these mayors and others have the resources they need to have enough for public safety and the other vital functions of a city. Right now, unfortunately, I have Republican mayors, Democratic mayors, independents all calling me every day asking for help to make sure they don't lay off police officers or first responders during this pandemic. And we don't want that to happen in Chicago either.
All right, Congressman Davis, let's move on to the stalled round of talks on federal stimulus relief. As you know, President Trump took executive action to defer the payroll tax temporarily and then to provide potentially up to $400 of new unemployment assistance, although states would have to foot some of that bill under the original plan. Members of his own party, Senator Ben Sasse from Nebraska, they're calling it unconstitutional slop, quote, and Sasse is quoted saying the pen and phone theory of executive lawmaking is unconstitutional slop. President Obama did not have the power to unilaterally rewrite immigration law with DACA, and President Trump does not have the power to unilaterally rewrite the payroll tax law. Under the Constitution, that power belongs to the American people acting through their members of Congress. Congressman Davis, is this unconstitutional?
Well, first off, I want to reiterate that 83%, according to an Inspector General's report, of the CARES Act dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, still have yet to be dispersed by the state of Illinois to our local communities. Let's get that out. But I too agreed with Ben Sasse, but unfortunately the Supreme Court disagreed with us. The Supreme Court ruled that executive action when it came to President Obama's DACA program was constitutional. And frankly, it's very frustrating because many of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle had two opportunities during the last Congress to really codify into law an existing DACA program that would have protected DACA kids from ever being sent to a country they may never have known in their lifetime. But unfortunately, they chose to stick with the executive action. That executive action then was challenged at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that the actions of the president today are constitutional.
Well, let's hear from the top Democrats on the Hill, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer, on their reaction to these executive actions.
That whether they're legal or not takes time to figure out. I associate myself remarks with Senator Sass, who says they're unconstitutional slop.
It's not going to pump money into the economy. And second, the president said, if elected, I will forgive all this. That depletes money out of the Social Security and Medicare trust funds.
Congressman Krishnamoorthi, will this have the effect of bringing Republicans and Democrats together to solve this impasse?
Unfortunately, no. I think that it delays action. It's unfortunate that the White House negotiators basically retreated into a corner, and setting aside the constitutionality of the executive orders, they're just wholly unresponsive to the magnitude of the need out there, not to mention they're unworkable. You said that the first $100 of this supposed $400 bump would have to come from the very states that are broke right now and asking for aid from the federal government. The president talked about an eviction moratorium going into effect. Wrong again. His executive order merely asked the federal government to consider how to help renters in this time. And then finally, with regard to the payroll tax holiday, it's not a holiday, it's a deferral. And most employers are not going to stop collecting that payroll tax, and it undermines the sustainability of the Medicare and Social Security trust funds, not paying into those funds now. So this is really bad, not to mention it doesn't have a stimulus check component to it, which most families need right now as well.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there for right now, and I will be joined again by Congressman Rodney Davis later in the program to discuss the news of his recent COVID diagnosis. But for now, my thanks to Congressman Rodney Davis and Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi.
Thank you.